how different is he behind closed doors as a leader than he is the way we see him on stage when he's begging for money or raising for money or, pleading for everybody around the world to want to support him? Is he the same person behind closed doors as he is on the big screen?
It's two different people.
Really?
Yes, of course. On the screen, he plays the role of this unbreakable leader, like made of iron. In life, he carries himself in a much softer way in personal conversations. He attentively listens to everyone's opinion, but nonetheless, he takes decisions himself later on behind closed doors when everyone leaves.
So, for us, Americans or people around the world who are not directly in there, who don't know his story, we see the videos of him dancing. We see the videos of him being an actor. We see the videos of him going from being a teacher in a show to being accidentally he becomes a president, right? For you, being from there, that's lived there, to the average person, how did Zelenskyy get his popularity, and how did he eventually get to a point of becoming a president in Ukraine?
It was a huge protest against the old political system that was in action since 1991 through 2012, and during the time he was elected, it was the third Maidan, but it was an electoral Maidan, voters Maidan. People were not so much voting for him, even though a good amount of people voted for him, as much as they were voting against Poroshenko and the old system. They wanted to elect a wild card joker person who is not from the system, and they got one.
1991, he's 13 years old, right? This is when the negotiations taking place. I'm thinking you're talking about the Budapest memorandum, the whole conversation that's happening. Hey, if you give us the 1,700 nuclear warheads, we will give you protection. That's what we'll do. And then from that moment on, I'm more interested in Zelenskyy. So were the puppet masters looking to see somebody that they can use, and Zelenskyy was perfect for the puppet masters? Is that who he was perfect for, because he was an image, he was famous?
No. There are two main legends around Zelenskyy's name. The first is that he's someone's puppet, that Kolomoisky, for example, one of Ukrainian oligarchs. And the second one is that really Yermak runs everything and Zelenskyy is his puppet. But it's not so. Zelenskyy is an extraordinarily harsh and authoritarian person. He controls everything. And Yermak, when he says that he's just Zelenskyy's manager, it's true. He's not exaggerating. There are places and issues where they do not let Yermak in, where he decides single-handedly, and the list of all those topics is not so short. And Kolomoisky is currently in jail. Everybody was portraying him as the owner of the puppet, but you see, they were pushing this legend, but you see how it all turned out to be.
Well, that's complimentary for you to say that, because, if one would think, you would say, no, he doesn't know what he's doing. He got lucky. He's done the job because other people are using him and all this other stuff. You're saying no. He actually knows exactly what he's doing and how he got into that position.
Absolutely.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay. So who is Zelenskyy to you? When seeing, raising capital, raising money, hey, give me more money here and all this other stuff. Is Zelenskyy, in America, we were divided. A lot of people were all about, hey, Putin's a bad guy, Russia's horrible, he's an evil empire, he's a modern-day Hitler, he's whatever, we just got to make sure this guy, we got to take him down, and we got to protect Ukraine. And everybody was wearing the Ukraine flag, pin here. Everybody on their Twitter profile, their pictures, Instagram, shirts, jackets, it doesn't matter who you were, everybody had the Ukraine pin, a lot of people. And a lot of people fell for it, right? And what a noble man Zelenskyy is, person of the year, he's amazing, he's doing all these great things. But that's the image a lot of people had, and gradually his popularity around the world has declined. It's not what it was a year and a half ago. It's not what it was 2 years ago. But from your perspective, who's Zelenskyy to you?
For me, Zelenskyy is a person that when life threw challenges at him, they were beyond his competency. Meaning, if perhaps he was a president during peaceful time, perhaps he could manage. But when his life confronted him with war, huge challenges, first COVID, then the war, he could not handle it. He simply was not able to understand and resolve the problems posed before him. Moreover, from my point of view, this is a person who de facto deceived his voters. He promised them one thing and practically did not fulfill not a single election promise, especially those key issues. Ukraine has about 25% of desperate nationalists who in their extreme nationalism roll down to chauvinism, especially with the war trauma. 73% of voters voted for Zelenskyy, practically the entire remainder. We're talking 25 and 73. And to them, he promised a wider multicultural project where people who speak in Russian, for example, and Russian culture is an organic part of Ukrainian culture. And so this is why they voted for him, because he said that he will not allow to split Ukrainians based on the language they speak and what church they go to. But he did not do any of that. He did everything to the opposite. Poroshenko, at his time, announced his famous concept stating army, language, Ukrainian language, and faith. And he consolidated around 25% of voters around himself, and the rest voted against that. In the result, Zelenskyy's administration, it turned up that he supported that very same project, and today Ukraine is facing a serious violation of Constitution, and he himself is supposed to be the guarantor of Constitution. Human rights violations, brutal violations, persecution of the church, etc. And I began criticizing that when I was still his advisor to his office, because for me, my personal motivation is very close toward a religious one. For me, the issue of conscience, honor, precision are key issues, the issue of truth. And I'm not able to stay silent, and even now I'm not silent because he, with all of this negative attitude toward what he does, he's the head. He's the president and the head of our country that's at war with a superior opponent. So in my rhetoric and my critic, and I'm being officially in political opposition to him, I must at all time carefully choose my words to make a distinction between the office of the president of Ukraine and Volodymyr Zelenskyy as a person. I'm trying not to damage the president of Ukraine, rather to hit particularly Zelenskyy himself. And this may have a negative appearance as if I'm waging a personal war within him. That's not true. It's not the case. I'm criticizing him as a political leader that is making mistakes, in my opinion, including strategical mistakes on the inside and the outside, refraining from waging war as a matter of principle. But oftentimes, such reputation may get created. And at all times, even now, I have to carefully select my words as a matter of principle so as not to damage the country. And it's not easy.
I can only imagine. And I'm assuming that's why you chose to speak in your native language, because you do speak English.
I speak English, and I could provide this interview on the English.
You know the technicalities of words.
But I have to be specified, very specified.
I totally respect it. I get it, specifically in this
yes.
position that you're in. Yeah, I mean, when you think about, when I look at the numbers, when he won in 2019, 73.22%. And he said, I promise I will never let you down, right? His words that he talked about. Now, transitioning into where we are today, okay? So let's go to Putin, in your eyes. When you break down the history of what's happened between Putin and Ukraine and Russia and the history of it, I'll even give you a timeline here in a minute, and when you see it, I'm sure you recognize the timeline. You're very critical of Zelenskyy, very, based on what you're saying.
You're going to think I'm crazy when I tell you this, but the last 13 and a half years, I've been working on my first fiction book to write, ever. Fiction book to write. And while I finished this book, a year ago, I got the strangest phone call about one of the characters in the book where the guy wanted to meet with me, and he read the book. And afterwards, is like, wait a minute, am I the villain in the book? This is a story about a character named Asher, who is half Armenian, half Assyrian, whose father was involved in the Iranian Revolution, linked to Savak, working with the Shah, that they escape, and he gets recruited to a secret society. Well, when you go to the secret society, it's been around for a couple thousand years. They've developed some of the craziest leaders of all time, and they test you. There's unique tests that they have at this society where they test to see your emotional mental toughness. One of the tests that they have is very rigorous. It's purely mental. Of course, there's a physical one, but one is mental and emotional. If you're Armenian, if you're Syrian, if you're Persian, this is a book you're going to be reading and saying, holy moly, this is the kind of stuff you talk about in here? Yes. If you're somebody that's fascinated by history, this is a book for you. Characters. There's a technology that this society, secret society, builds where you go into a vault. I won't spoil it for you. When you go down, they have a technology where you get to sit down and watch and have a 3-4 hour conversation with Tupac. You can set up a debate between Karl Marx and Ayn Rand. Karl Marx is in the book, who wrote Communist Manifesto. Ayn Rand, who wrote Atlas Shrugged, is in the book. Marilyn Monroe explains the concept of seduction and sex in the book. When you read the book, it's about development of the next leaders in the world and how they do it and how they've been doing it for many years. And it's also about how to prevent the end of civilization and how this organization goes about doing it. So I've never written a parenting book before, but if I ever wrote a parenting book, this is the closest thing to it because it's all mindset, a lot of crazy stories. Again, 13 and a half years. Trust me, I told myself I will not publish this book until I sell my insurance company and I'm fully disconnected from it, where it's no longer my responsibility 100%. When you read this, if you're a creative person, if you like fiction books, if you enjoyed Atlas Shrugged, or if you enjoy Divergent, if you like books like that, I think you're gonna enjoy reading this book. It's the creative side. Business books is very easy. Here's how you do it. Here's how this how it works. This is very creative. If you haven't placed the order yet, now you can order it on Simon & Schuster, Amazon. I'm going to put the link up below somewhere here, maybe even in my profile. Go order the book and read it. I've never written a book where I can't wait to read your reviews to see what you think about this book. So I'm going on this wild journey, and we have some plans with this book here. If you support the things that I work on, I would appreciate you going and reading the book, order the book on Amazon, and then post a review. If you enjoyed this video, you want to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click here.